if you could see me right now, it looks great. I shaved my beard too. Baby face. I'm super baby face.
No
Welcome, everyone, to the BatShtCrazy podcast. We've been on a small hiatus, but we're back. Hopefully for good this time. Today, we have some fun topics in store. Nothing serious, but fun. And Kyle, my question to you is, did the Force use Qui-Gon Jinn to ruin the Jedi on purpose? Because I was thinking about it, when Qui-Gon talks to Yoda in his little meditation thing, there's a scene where he talks to him. Yoda thinks he's going crazy. So he brings the council in and tells them, I might be going crazy. I'm hearing things. Let's all meditate together. They all put their hands on him. And he talks to Qui-Gon. But instead of revealing himself to the whole Jedi, which Anakin would have been privy to and helped, I think that would have changed things dramatically had Yoda said, I'm talking to Qui-Gon right now, and you can too. Here's your master to guide you. Instead, Qui-Gon says, don't tell anybody. We're going to keep this a secret. You need to go to Dagobah and have this little meditation force session here. And your bad things are going to happen to the Jedi, but I'm not going to tell you when. And it could be stopped, but the hope may come in a way you don't imagine it. Something like that. So instead of revealing himself to all the Jedi when he had the chance, when they're all in the chamber, he makes them think Yoda's crazy. And instead, the Force just might have pushed the whole thing right over the edge, because it could have stopped there. Qui-Gon could have probably saved the whole debacle from happening. Anakin could have been told about his master and trained and talked to him and got some guidance that he needed in that fatherly figure. Instead, he's like, don't tell anybody. This is our little secret. And you're going to go to Dagobah and hide. So instead of Yoda finishing off Palpatine, like he could have maybe, he had that in the back of his mind already that he needed to go to Dagobah. He knew that he needed to do that because the Force was willing him to. So the Force, in a way, ruined the whole Jedi Order on purpose because they wanted it to collapse because they needed to bring balance. So Qui-Gon was just a tool. Is it even Qui-Gon? Or is it just a thing the Force used to be a little bit of a sneaky little villain? Is the Force the villain of the whole movie? Yeah, I went deep today. This was all just like in the last hour. I had to rewatch the whole scenes and everything. I was like, shit, Qui-Gon's a bad guy. So, yeah, let me know what you think.
Well, okay. I think so many things. My mind was going 100 miles an hour as you were talking. And every time I thought I had figured a way out to answer your question, you just bring up another point and
I know. I can't find a way out of it. I want you to save
like
it.
A vicious circle. I don't know what to do. Okay.
I want you to save it.
Save it. Okay, I got this. Watch me work my magic. All right. So, hi. Here's where we're at.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon. There are so many theories about Qui-Gon. One of my favorite theories about Qui-Gon, I think it actually started with Star Wars theory. I think he might have been the first one. It's either him or it was Boba Talks. I'm not sure who. Plugs for both of them. They're great. But the theory was that Darth Maul's mission on Naboo was never about the blockade. It was never about the Trade Federation. It was never about the Naboo themselves. It was always about Qui-Gon. The theory is that Qui-Gon's common sense, the same thing that kept him off the council, was one of the attributes the Emperor feared, and so he sent Darth Maul to kill Qui-Gon because the Emperor foresaw Qui-Gon's insight being a real danger to him down the road. So everything is as the Force wills it. So you say the other part of that was thinking about it as you were talking about it is the Force might be a bad guy in exactly the same way you're thinking, but here's why it's not, because of the Chosen One prophecy. The prophecy was that Chosen One would be balanced. Well, we had at the time of the Clone Wars, we had a surplus. We had thousands of Jedi across the galaxy, and Order 66 about wiped them out. And the joke is, thousands of Jedi, but at the end, after Vader turned, it was only two Jedi, Obi-Wan and Yoda, versus only two Sith. It seems pretty balanced to me. Um, but there was a surplus in the light side, is how I saw that. So the Force very well could have put Qui-Gon in Sidious's crosshairs, all for that like end goal that it
Well,
needed the Force to be balanced, and this is
piggybacking,
how we were going to get there,
it
sort of
doesn't
thing.
it
That's what
doesn't
I was
change your,
thinking of.
but this doesn't change your point at all. But it could be a slightly different reason too. You could have the, because of, especially with Tales of the Jedi sort of reinforcing this. We knew Count Dooku wasn't fully committed to the
Right.
cause at that point, and maybe it was maybe not as deep of a meaning, that Palpatine maybe wasn't as privy to Qui-Gon as he should have been, but possibly it could have been as simple as he just wanted to push Dooku and get his alliance. And that we see that after he does kill Qui-Gon, he confronts him, that Dooku does, in that whole Yaddle debacle. And then it
Yeah,
almost
and
forces Dooku's hand, because it seems like Dooku's on the fence still. And then he's like, you're either going to
yeah,
join me or not.
yeah,
So
absolutely,
who knows?
completely unraveling my own theory here. Uh,
But it doesn't change
When
the
Duke,
outcome of the theory. Either way
well,
is kind of the same.
well, no, no, it does because, well, I guess not the outcome, but like the fundamental part of it changes because talking about the senior talking is when Dooku goes to Palpatine, he was straight up there to confront him. He's like, "You went too far," and Qui-Gon Jinn was never supposed to get hurt, and the Emperor's like, "You lost an apprentice, and so did I." So that could be interpreted as he did not mean for that to happen, and because we know the Emperor considered Maul to be an actual loss. He had intended from the start to take Maul with him to where Vader was, but then Kenobi, and then Kenobi again, and then Kenobi again,
Kenobi.
and Kenobi. Uh,
But yeah,
yeah,
it was an
man,
interesting thought. I was like,
what a
Qui-Gon's a bad guy.
the Force is the bad guy. What?
He's like,
There,
F the council, F all of you. You didn't make me a master, and
he's
screw
like,
you.
guess who else wasn't a master?
So yeah, that was just my little blurb.
Qui-Gon gets to the other side. He's like, I got a very particular set of skills.
Yeah, so that was literally a shower thought I had. So I was like, well, that'll be good for the show. I don't know where it takes us,
Great.
but
Great things happen in the water. I don't know what to tell
so
you. Dude, that was great. That was great.
yeah, it was good.
Good. You got more? Give me more.
That was it. That was my only good one.
No, no.
But now we're gonna segue to what you've been chomping at the bit for, because yours is going to be vastly more exciting than mine, and you want to do a. Let me see how you phrase this. How would you retell the movies? Correct? Is that what you're? Return of the Jedi.
So yes. So here is how would you, let's say, in the spirit of remaking the film, but keeping like most of the core elements. The essential story has to remain the same. You can't dramatically change that. Um, but like, what would you change to the pre-existing story? How would you rewrite Return of the Jedi to end in the same place, but still be different? What scenes would you elaborate on? What would you take away? What would you do with Return of the Jedi if you had the opportunity to remake it,
So
keeping the story the same?
was this in the? You kind of answered that, but I guess I should have followed this up in text. But are you going at this from the perspective of the technology of the time? Because that vastly changes what you could do with this. I mean, I know you're talking about
Yes.
story
Okay.
elements, but
The the tech has to stay the same too.
Okay.
You can't
because that does
put
vastly
Darth Vader
change
in
things.
you can't put Vader in an Iron Man suit.
Why? What?
Sorry. No, no nanotech for someone that still has asthma.
Damn
I'm
it.
just not gonna.
Okay. Do you want me to go first?
I want you to go first. Yeah.
Okay. So I actually don't have a lot of changes. That's the weird thing. The more I was thinking about it, because I was assuming you were talking about it in that context. I wasn't, because if you're going about a complete modern day remake, I could go on for hours about how I would elaborate lightsaber duels, and there'd be way more connectivity between all the shows and stuff. But keeping in the spirit of what you were talking about, My only real change that I think would help a lot of it match up with prequels and later stuff would be a time jump from the second movie to the third movie and make it a long time, a couple years at the least, 2 to 3 years in between the two movies. I think that would solve a lot of issues with because at that point in time, Lucas was not doing the whole we need to train to be a Jedi thing. And then he went the complete reverse and decided you're 8 years old, you're too old to be a Jedi in the new movies, which is complete contrast to 18-year-old Luke somehow training in 4 to 5 months or whatever. And then now he's a super Jedi. It's like that doesn't make any sense, especially when you fit it in with the prequels. So I think if you did a 2 to 3 year time jump training with Force Yoda, and that would be, or even just Yoda in general, not Force Yoda, but Yoda, that would be enough to make it believable with his potential combined with the best Jedi Master, and with we're gonna say some like Chuck Norris type training here. He's just like going as hard at it as possible and living and breathing it. That I think would help a lot of continuity and power scaling issues that have with this movie. That's mostly my gripe with any kind of movie is power scaling. And it could make the whole fight in Return of the Jedi make a lot more sense. I mean, that it still would be a heavy on Vader's side, but with the emotion playing into it, it would obviously confliction and all that stuff. It all makes sense. So that would be the real big change I would make. Otherwise, I like the movie structure. I just have never. If you watch it without the prequels, it's fine. But if you have all that extra knowledge and you see the trials and tribulations of every character in the Clone Wars, Ahsoka, Anakin especially, you see his brutal upbringing and mistakes and just learning as he goes and all that stuff. Obi-Wan learning. It's just it doesn't fit very well. And I've always kind of had that gripe with Luke's character in general, just never getting enough training. It seems like he always just kind of is, I'm here now and I'm way better than I was last time, and nobody is going to explain how. But that's about it, just to make that kind of fit with everything. It's an easy change. I would have made the same change with the newer movies. That would have made a lot more sense too. Rey just a couple years in between there training with Luke. That would have made all those movies make a lot more sense and why she was suddenly grabbing ships out of the sky. And it's like, okay, that a lot of stuff can be solved with time skipping. I don't know why they're so opposed to it. It feels like we have to have this continuous, now we're here, now we're here. But I don't know, Lucas himself has kind of went back and forth on that a bunch of times where he just kind of likes to finagle with things. So I'd like some continuity, but that's it. What would you do? What's your giant
Well,
replan here? I'm kind of excited for
it,
this.
it it is a little bit long. It's kind of the meat and potatoes, and I think after I'm done, you'll kind of have an idea of more of what I was doing. I mean, you should because I'll have told it to you. And so if that opens up to you need more time to revise or to reapproach it, that's fine by
I
me.
do. I'll keep thinking because I'm not
Yeah.
sure where you're going with this.
I'm just going to take you essentially through the movie
On a
and talk
journey.
about on a journey a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So essentially, I'm just going to walk you through the movie and what I would change about certain critical points. So the first thing we see of Return of the Jedi is Darth Vader's arrival on the Death Star, and I have always thought that that was very lackluster. You know, this is the Death Star. It's the size of a small moon. Its imperial garrison is thousands and thousands and thousands. I mean, it's a base. You know, it's huge. It's like a city. Yeah, you know, it's a huge. And when you see Vader arrive, there's like a full company of stormtroopers there. You know, this is number 2 in the empire. This is Darth Vader. You know, people show up. There would have been more officers there, you know, kissing his butt, trying to, you know, kiss the ring sort of thing. And so that's something I would change right away is the number of people in attendance and the number of officers like nervously scurrying about. The other thing about this movie that is never elaborated on, mostly because it was decided this was continuity, after the movie was made and released. When the Sith enter a room, it goes cold, like Dementors cold, and people feel sick. And so one of the things I would change is like when Darth Vader enters and like he's in his full Darth Vader-ness power, I would I'd show some people in the background like kind of like I don't know, holding their heads or trying not to keel over or something like that. And you would hear the force effects of his like evil manifestation because the Sith at this point are just unstoppable and he's got power and all this stuff. So I would change that in the background too. Um, Moving into the next little bit, Jabba's palace and the rescue. Um, I would have it so later in the beginning of the movie, it's established that like Chewie tells Han that Luke has this plan. And I'm cool with that, I like Luke. But this is Han, and Leia is smarter and Leia is more capable, and so I would really emphasize that, like, this is Leia's plan to save Han, who was frozen in carbonite. And, I'd have the assault on Jabba's people be just, like, straight chaos. Leia and Chewie just, like, destroying everything because Chewbacca's a Wookiee, and Leia's the daughter of the Chosen One and a little scamp. Um, I would have a contingency of, like, Rebel Strike Force show up because why would Princess Leia go anywhere without, like, a royal entourage, especially after Bail Organa bit it and with the rest of Alderaan. Uh, so there would be just way more to that. I'd have the battle between Boba Fett and Luke be a battle between Boba Fett, Luke, and Han, because I think that'd be really cool for like the only way to take down Boba Fett was with a Jedi and the scoundrel. That'd be kind of cool to see. Um, I would. This seems like a really stupid thing to throw in there, but I always thought it was weird that R2D2 had jets in the prequels, but he's always just like rolling down steps in the original trilogy. So like I would see R2 like activate his jets, kind of like going from one barge to another. Um, but I'd want to see like one fail and sputter a little bit and just listen to R2 scream, go, wow, just got spins out of control. And later that's where they pick him up, because, let's get out of here. Don't forget the droids. And they pick him up. Like, I'd want that to be the reason R2, he's old, man. He needs maintenance. Uh, but I'd want to see that. Um, yeah, the biggest thing with Jabba's rescue is I'd more Jedi chaos from Luke as I imagine at this point. I know they try to make him off as like the serene Jedi, but he's like a 23-year-old Jedi Knight at this point, and he's got new powers. And I just imagine he'd be like a kid hyped up on sugar and caffeine, let loose in a bounce house. He's got his light stick, he's got his laser sword, he's hacking limbs off. He's having the time of his life, is what I would show. And I'd show Leia really taking command of jumping back to the Death Star and Emperor's arrival. More people showed up for this and the movie, which was good. But again, this is the Death Star and this is the Emperor. In 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 the U.S. military, when the installation commander comes to see something or wants to say something, everybody shows up. There's skeleton crews.
So it's not a rebuttal to this because you're entitled to what you want, but
Right.
um, the only I will say they stayed consistent with that though. It does seem in every other property they've made since there really isn't a whole lot of people in any of
That's
their
true.
installations, and I don't know if you contribute that to maybe modern tech as far as having
Maybe.
droids rolling around surveilling things. Maybe they just don't need manpower as much. But yeah, it is interesting because I mean it makes it convenient for plot story reasons when people are trying to sneak around and there's not much guard going on. But I will say they at least stayed consistent with that point because every time somebody's trying to infiltrate an Empire base, it's like, where is everybody? This is supposed to be a
Right.
secret facility here, and they're just walking through the
Well,
front door.
well, I mean, they're all in attendance for somebody's arrival, obviously,
Yeah.
in my version. But no, I
The only
would,
time we've ever seen that was Hux doing his little Germany impression.
yeah.
That's probably the most
And well, and
soldiers we've ever
that's
seen.
and that's I guess kind of where also I'm pulling this idea from is because he, General Hux's speech is very, very Nazi Germany, and the Empire was originally modeled. George Lucas modeled it off of after Nazi Germany, and I always imagine the Emperor kind of as a Hitler character, and whenever he had a parade, everybody showed up. So they're like the hangar the Emperor arrives in, I would jam it packed full of stormtroopers and all kinds of troopers, death troopers. Every special unit Green Beret Star Wars they had. I'd put them on display, and then I'd see people like the normal white troopers like puking out of their helmets and stuff like that because the Emperor's arrival is so much worse. This is a guy that bled a mountain of kyber crystal. He's powerful, and so I would make the reaction to his arrival just just gross.
Although I suppose at
And
that time, though, you don't know the Emperor's an all powerful being at that year it was made. But you
well,
just assume he's you don't really know what he is at that. There's very little of him in that movie until he does a
yeah,
force lightning, and then it's like, oh, this guy's a wizard. He's a
yeah, he's
wizard,
a
Harry.
wizard. He's a dark wizard, and Harry Potter's just sucky Star Wars. I said what I said.
Well, I mean, the dark saber is basically just the Elder Wand.
Yeah, it's not. You're not wrong. Or the
Whoever
or
kills somebody gets it.
the Youngling Slayer 66,000.
I was thinking about that the other day. I don't like that scene. If we could, okay, that was a slight detour. If I could
Yes.
edit the prequel movies, I would take that out. That doesn't seem to fit because at that point in time, you think where Anakin was mentally, he was nowhere near committed. Like once like a couple minutes before that, he was about to turn on the Chancellor, and you can't imagine he was very deep in that well of treason yet. And I can't imagine him going just slaughtering children. That just doesn't seem. I could see him doing it 20 years from then easily. His older Vader self was ruthless killing machine, but that version just doesn't. It just seems out of. I don't know, out of left field a little bit. I was like, I get what they were trying to do there. Like, I don't know. He doesn't seem at any point that he's because even when he talks to Padme, he's not fully embraced the dark side yet. He's kind of half and half, but it's like, no, that guy isn't capable of just going to slaughtering children. You watch him in the Clone Wars, it's like, what's going on? I don't know. That's would be my one revision there.
Well, and we can write the Nightfall series and change it however we want.
That's true. We can do whatever we want.
Uh, where was? Oh
Sorry,
yeah, the Emperor showed up, and then he threw me. You threw off my groove.
I did.
Oh, Yoda. Yoda dies. Spoilers. I think maybe I would extend that more. Show it at the end. Show at the end of his life that like Yoda did go like freaking nutso batso crazy, and he just like starts naming off his dead Jedi friends. He's talking like Master Plo or Master this person or something. Maybe he'll even throw in an Anakin here or there because Anakin, he thought they were friends, and
So you
he
want to
gets
just
out of it.
have more stuff they have to work around in future
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
that
No.
Filoni has to try to make sense of.
Yeah, why not? I mean, we have the sequels, so I mean, what harm can it do? Um, yeah, like I would have Yoda like at the very end of his life just kind of be like super senile and all gibberish and jittery and like his memories of 1,000 years are flooding into his head. And Luke's trying to make sense of it, and that's where Yoda spills that like, twins or something like that.
Do
And
you do you think he would have died if had he that soon had he not went to Dagobah if none of this ever happened if everything
no,
just
not a
continued as
chance.
normal?
Because the
But
thing that Yoda
I do
didn't
wonder that.
have, no, the thing that Yoda didn't have on Dagobah, when Yoda was Grand Master of the Order, he had medical facilities. I mean, the dude had healthcare, man, and
And most of it
He
was
had
pulling from the force, really, to keep
it's like
himself
it's
moving.
like
But
I mean, at the end, that's all he had was the Force. He didn't even have the comfort of meditation amongst, however many Jedi were in the temple at the same time. When outside of the Clone Wars, when you see him in the High Republic and such, like Yoda's life purpose was being fulfilled. He felt complete. He was happy. And it wasn't until the Clone War and the shadow that the Emperor brought with that things really started to go downhill from him for him. But like surrounded by all the medical advances of the capital of the core worlds, all of the force healers and force medicine and stuff like that available to him from the
wait,
Jedi,
before I lose
being
this
the
thought,
Grand Master. Yeah,
I
I
have
mean, no,
my
no
old man
way.
brain is going to lose this.
Oh, don't do it.
Um,
Don't lose it.
shit, I almost forgot it. Hold on. Oh yeah,
Oh, there it
while
goes.
I was watching the recap for that whole Qui Gon theory thing I had going, I realized an underrated trait that makes him a lot like Kenobi. Um, the guy really had no ego whatsoever. It was amazing because you would think somebody of that stature and longevity. But as soon as Qui Gon starts talking to him and he goes to Dagobah and he sits down and meditates, he's like, I think what he said, I am here, Master Qui Gon, ready for your
Yeah.
teachings or something like that. Like there was no sort of like arrogance, entitlement. He's just like, you teach me. I'm your student now. Teach me how to do this. I want to. And it was a very cool scene that was kind of maybe underappreciated at the time. It's just how much like Kenobi, where it's just like they just kind of go with the flow of things and don't really care about themselves or think about how they fit into things, just how they can get a job done, which I think is a very underrated perk for both of them. Maybe why they're so powerful, because they just don't have that emotion hanging on them like all the time as Anakin does, or other ones that are always clouded and fighting maybe at 90% of their capability because they're always being held back by something going on in their brain, and they're not. It's almost like an animated, like a Ultra Instinct Goku kind of thing, where you're just a mindless dodging everything. For all of you Dragon Ball people out there, that's kind of what it reminds me of. Is they're just not settled down. I mean, they have their own worries and fears, but when it comes to getting the job done, they don't let it seep into anything they do. They just are in the moment, and I think it's a very cool trait that I think is not many people have in the Star Wars universe. That was it. I don't have to remember anything anymore.
Okay, good job. Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Conversation between Obi-Wan and Luke, I'd make that longer. I'd have Obi-Wan tell him about his parents, not just his point of view of Anakin. And I'd have Obi-Wan kind of like lay his cards on the table, not like an in-depth life history or anything. I don't want him to talk about like, oh, you're just like your dad at his age or something. Like none of that stuff. Just like tell him about Vader, tell him about Padme, and tell him about his sister and the circumstance behind it and why they lied to him. Because
Don't kiss your
Obi-Wan would been,
sister.
yeah, don't kiss your sister. That's an episode 5 change. Um, but that's for that. For the this one's cool. So the mission brief at the on the Rebel fleet. At the end of that, they're talking about General Calrissian, General Solo, the strike team. Luke shows up and like, I'm with you too, and the meeting's just like over for some reason. And I would okay. So the first thing I would change about that is the audience. Uh, since how we're remaking our movie anyway, we don't have to worry about what they didn't have access to or what did or did not happen at the time of the create of the movie. We just worry about continuity as it is. And I'd change the audience to include uh, any of the rebels from the show that are still around. So we know Kanan's gone, we know Ezra's gone, but like we've seen Zeb and we've seen Hera and we've seen Chopper and we've seen Sabine, and we know they were still active in the rebellion at this point. So we'd see them. We would see Rex, and we would see the clone commanders that are still with Rex, and we would see his special unit of clones that are still active in the rebellion. And we'd see, one of the things that's been bugging me more and more as like specifically Star Wars games progress is they keep introducing Order 66 survivors. I have
Mm-hmm.
such a hard time believing that all of them, except for Kanan and Ezra, were just and Ahsoka for a time, were just like, nope, we're either just going to retire or we're going to disappear completely. I would imagine that the name Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, the Rebel pilot that blew up the Death Star, who we know is immediately famous because in the comic continuity, which is canon, Vader starts killing people who are impersonating Luke Skywalker. So, like, this last name, this unknown person blowing up the Death Star, would ring like a dinner bell for Jedi survivors who knew about the Clone War hero Anakin Skywalker, who the Empire told everybody died protecting younglings, and they would rally around that name. So the 66 survivors, there would be more Jedi available to help at the time of the rebellion. And so I would have, I don't know, like 10 or 12 just like special Jedi. Maybe they were Padawans that escaped like Cal Kestis and Caleb Doom. Maybe they were full on knights. Maybe there was a master, but I would have Jedi alongside their clones at that meeting. I feel like that would be really see. Um Wookiees. There would be more Wookiees because we know there was an active Wookiee rebellion. I would just jam pack that room. Wedge, any of the heroes from Andor that are left. Um, just fill everybody. Because Return of the Jedi is like, I know it's just number three in an old trilogy, and that it's just a part of the Star Wars saga. But when you think about the culmination of the Clone Wars, the culmination of uh, the Imperial time period. Return of the Jedi was like the Avengers Endgame of Star Wars until they went ahead and made the sequels. It's the culminating event. It's all of these people, all of these characters, all these stories reaching the same destination at the end. So right off the bat, the audience would be completely different. Um, I would emphasize that this is like the Rebel Alliance's like Hail Mary pass, and so like it's all or nothing because you kind of you get the definite vibe that in the movie the New Republic, the rebellion is giving everything to the um the Imperial fight and the assault on the Death Star and trying to take it out, trying to kill the Emperor, but they just don't have a lot. And so I think what I'd want to do is increase those numbers too. I would want to see like Battlestar Galactica sized fleet attack the Death Star because he's got the Death Star and hundreds and hundreds of star destroyers. Like the Imperial fleet did not come to play; they were there, and so yeah, I'd change that.
Well, I think that what they're kind of trying to do with Andor and other shows is not remake the movies necessarily, but do it in a roundabout way that's it's almost implying that this thing was a little bit grander than the movies portrayed, and you used your head canon here to kind of fill in the blanks because obviously they can't remake the movies, but I think they're trying to do it in a way that is tasteful but not encroaching on those movies still, because obviously there's a lot more going on in Andor that we're seeing, and we're seeing a lot more players come into working around, and there's a lot more going on than the
Yeah.
original movies would portray, but they obviously can't touch those movies necessarily. So I think this is a good way to
Hold on just a second.
circumvent
Sorry.
that.
Oh, my contact folded into my eye again. I got it though.
I
We're
can see
good,
that.
everybody.
I thought there we go. It's like he's either having a stroke or his contacts going.
No, it got dry.
Because it was
like,
hard to tell. If you were 70
like-
right now, I might be more concerned.
it like folded into a taco and shot straight up. It did that to me. That's what it did the other night. And
Some dry eyes.
I forget to blink. I think maybe it's the brightness of the screen. Okay. So back to the meeting. Why is Leia not involved in the lead? Like it's been made clear she's a leader in the rebellion. Why is she not like standing up with Mon Mothma given the speech? You know? I don't know. She
I
briefed
feel like,
everybody in Empire Strikes Back. She briefed people at in A New Hope, but she was not part of the leadership briefing. She seemed clueless that Han had even been promoted and then also got the strike team.
this is another theory that I have going, but I almost wonder, he will never admit this. I almost wonder if George Lucas didn't write this stuff till it was happening, and it kind of was like, okay, well, maybe he's telling everybody he had this grand story made up, but maybe he's just like, yeah, Luke and Leia, we're gonna make them a couple, and then we're gonna change it. He's a sister now, but they already kissed. It doesn't matter.
totally planned out. We
because some of it does feel like that. You're right. Leia seems like a very underused and confusing character at times. Sometimes she's the spunky, almost teenager kind of character, and then other times she's very diplomatic, and it's like, I don't know. Yeah, she's an odd character in the original series. I think Padme helps her character more than anything in the Clone Wars, as I think a lot of people associate them as being a similar character. So I think a lot of people don't really watch those in the context of just that without thinking of Padme. So I think Padme helped, complete her character arc in a way, because I think that was what that is what Leia should have been, was Padme, but instead he didn't do that. So now it was like, this is kind of fixing that. So you think of her mother, and then if you combine the two, that's what she should be. And I think it just was not well thought of at the time, but I think that's probably what Padme was, is the afterthought of, okay, this is what I probably should have wrote the first time around, so I'm going to do that now and just kind of fix it later. It seems like he does that a lot in the prequels, where he maybe had ideas that weren't quite fleshed out, and then he thought about it longer over those 20 years or whatever, and then he's like, okay, we're going to do this, and these are what the characters should have been back then, but we can't do that now, so we'll just kind of make them the parents, and here you go.
Leia is a reoccurring theme in my rewrite, just because she was such a strong character in first two, and then it felt like she fell off in the third.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Last thing I'm changing to the meeting scene, when Luke shows up, kind of like in an opposite of how the Sith make everyone feel sick. I would make him like the embodiment of hope. So when he arrives in the original movie, the music tempo changes, and everybody's like, "Oh, Luke's here. We're done with the briefing now." But I would make that more obvious, that it was just like, this is essentially our good guy. This is our hopeful person. The light of the Jedi entered the room, as it were. That's what I would. Arrival on the Endor. The whole scene in the shuttle where Han's like, I don't think they're going to go for it, Chewie. Get ready to, I don't know, fly casual, that sort of thing. I would change that sequence between Luke and Vader. You can see that they're sensing each other, but there's no force effects sound. In the sequels, the thing I liked about the sequels is every time they used the force, there was that sound. So I would make that more of an obvious statement, that like Luke's trying to hide himself from his father, but he can't cut himself off from the force, so he's like struggling. And because the primary change I would make in this is to never downplay Vader. This is Vader in his 40s. This is Vader like 20 years into the Empire. This is Darth Vader. This is the prime he's going to get.
Well, that's what I hate when people tell me. They always argue. They always argue he's an old man. I was like, he's not that old. I was like, you guys don't understand
40.
what. He's like, yeah, I was like, even if he's like 40, 50, I was like, that's not old. It's like, you look at Dooku, he's like 70 something, 80, whatever he was. It's like the Force makes you almost impervious to age until the very end.
Yeah. No, humans will live for 150 years if they're.
Yeah, I hate that argument. People try to tell me that. Yeah. Like, that's not the reasoning. It was just a lack of technology and lack of partly it was just the prequels ruined it, because you see how Anakin at that point, and then you can't. That's the problem, is people look at Anakin in the prequel movies and they go, that guy's awesome. What happened? And it's like, well, it's just lack of technology for one, and then Lucas decided to go, we're going to be the Matrix now. And it's like you can't go from pointy sticks to we're going to have the best choreography ever made. That somehow now that they released the Kenobi footage of that real fight not sped up or like the real footage, did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Oh my god, it's insane. It looks sped up. I had to watch it. I was like, there's no way this is real. The Darth Maul Obi-Wan like real fight, they put it in real time. They
Oh,
just released that.
yeah.
I
No,
was like,
yeah. Oh, I thought you're
that's
talking about. I thought
insane.
you were talking about. I thought you were talking about Kenobi the show. I was like, how
Oh
could it be
no,
worse?
not
No,
that.
no. You're talking about the fight,
Yeah.
the original fight between Ewan and Ray Park.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
like,
they
you,
had
you
to
can't
slow it
you
down.
can't you can't do that. You can't go from pointy
No,
sticks to that. It's like that's too much. It's
no. Yeah,
great,
they
but
had to slow that fight down for. Yeah, no, absolutely. Uh,
so yeah.
oh, so moving on to when Vader informs the Emperor.
Oh wait, hold on.
Okay.
I just thought as while you were saying it, you were talking about the Luke and Vader sensing each other scene. What I
Yes.
did like what Filoni did that came to me while you were saying that was the showdown between Ahsoka and Vader in Rebels. They have a similar deal right off the bat where they both just kind of stand there and look at each other, and it's like you guys can say something, but it's almost the same thing where Vader says, I don't know what he says. We don't have to be adversaries or something. He says like I can sense whatever. It's almost like they're feeling each other out through the Force. And that was kind of a cool callback to that moment where they're just kind of standing there and it's like you don't know what's happening because it's not showing you anything, but you can tell they're kind of like mind battling in a way. And I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, that was it.
Yeah, no. One of the interesting things about the writing of Star Wars is, it's very heavily classed in sci-fi, which it should be, but it's also fantasy, and the magic system never gets explained past midichlorians. So it is kind of cool when you think about like the psychic battle that's. Okay, so Vader informs the Emperor about Luke's arrival on Endor. So
Okay.
the theme of this movie is Luke wants to turn his father, right? He senses the conflict in him, senses the good in him. I think maybe that's a stretch. Maybe he doesn't sense any good whatsoever, but he feels the frustration in him. Frustration at the Empire. He's like, look, you're telling me to go catch this Jedi kid. I've killed 1,000 Jedi kids. Now I have to go catch this Jedi kid. This Jedi kid who's named what, Palpatine? Who did I kill before she could give birth, Palpatine? Yeah, yeah, I would feel because the entire reason he turned was for her. Palpatine made him a promise, and he didn't keep the promise. And all these years, Vader was blaming himself. And now, here stands the truth right in front of his face. Padme didn't die from Vader, and their kid is who the Emperor wants next. Like I would harness, and this would be the first real like visual reputation. Keep in mind, like we have the entire scope of all of Star Wars in the background
No.
now. So
Yeah.
this is the culminating event. This is like we see this is all coming to a head. Like this is the first time you really notice that like Vader is mad and he's not as loyal as he was because he was lied to about the sole purpose behind his fall and he's conflicted, and that is something I would showcase in this scene. Moving back to Endor with the whole strike group moving through the forest, all Vietnam tactical like. um Rex is on that strike group. They wrote that into continuity. It's established he's there. And so I would show like some communication between Rex and Han, some communication with Rex and his clone commandos. Maybe he sends them on a separate mission, or you know, the Jedi go their own way from that mission. Maybe how big is the shuttle? How many people went with them? We know Rex was there. What's all the plans? What's
There
going
does
on?
need
And
to be
so
more Han
yeah,
in the military kind of deal. Maybe
yeah,
it's just kind of like implied that he just shows up and then he just starts doing things. It's obviously that's not really how it would work. There need to be some kind of coordination there, and it'd been nice to see him turn away from the smuggling thing for a bit and become a real kind of pilot for a mission or
yeah,
two, and then before setting back off on his own
yeah.
course. But
Give us the Legends version of Han. Yeah. Um, the scene where the speeder scene where Luke and Leia chase after the speed bikes,
mhm.
and So we watched Return of the Jedi a couple days ago, and I was watching that scene, and Luke is so bossy. He jumps on the back of the bike, and he's like, "Jam their comms, center switch, and get alongside that one," and stuff like that. I would change that, and I would make it more of a. I would This would be the first time that it's obvious that they're brother and sister because this is Leia. She's the daughter of the chosen one, just as he's the son of the chosen one, and she's Padme's daughter. And so Luke and Leia, jam their comms, center switch. I'd be like Leia going, "I know." And Luke's like, "Get alongside that one." She's like, "I know." And Luke would be like, "Hurry." Have Leia be like, "Get your own speeder," and like kick him off onto another speeder. Like, I would change that dynamic. I'd change that banter to make Leia way, way, way more uh, capable. Um, the way Luke takes out the speeder, I would just make that more force based. Keep his lightsaber off. I just showcase some of his. Um, when Leia meets the Ewoks, um, I first thing I change about the Ewoks is to make them scarier because I actually would keep the Ewoks, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Um, I'd make them look like I don't know teddy bear cannibals and forgotten jungles of South America or something. I don't know. And you know how scary they were in like the night missions of Battlefront 2? Yeah, I'd make them like that.
That would be
Um,
terrifying.
yeah, the concept behind the Ewoks came, the whole reason. Here's some trivia for you. The whole reason we have Ewoks is because they didn't have enough material to make Wookiees. The original plan, George's original idea, was they were going to have a planet full of Wookiees, and Chewie would find his people. Uh, but they didn't have enough fabric, so they made a bunch of child-size outfits and put, kids in Ewok costumes. But I would go back to the original idea, and I would have like a lost tribe of Wookiees who took refuge with their distant cousins, the Ewoks, if they're distant cousins, I don't know. But they found a Kashiki-like planet in Endor, and they were able to live largely the way they did, without fear of the Empire until, oops, they built the second Death Star here. But like, the Wookiees were enslaved right after the Clone Wars and treated badly. And so this would be like a tribe of refugees who were just trying to live in peace from the Empire, escaped slaves, and all of them bearing a bit of a grudge, which will come and play later. And so when Luke and Han and R2 and 3PO and Chewbacca are caught later, um, instead of being roasted under a fire and then lifting 3PO up in a chair, I would have I'd have it more evident that they were there to fight the Empire, and the Wookiees would, appreciate that. But more than that, we would see Chewbacca reunited with his people, and we would see the Wookiees' remembrance of the Jedi when they met Luke, and there would be that whole thing. So I would add Wookiees to Endor and that section. Um, I would have when Luke tells Leia the truth about who they are. I'd have R2 with him, and at that point, because we're changing it, why not? Maybe even Kenobi can show up in Force Ghost form, who of course Leia would recognize as Ben. Um, and together they would tell Leia everything and show Leia everything. She'd get the idea, and then from there, I would have with her realization. I hate it, but it exists in the sequel. Ray wakes up, her power wakes up, and she's able to do all kinds of things. I would have the same thing with Leia. I would have after like the knowledge was told to her, like a block lifts from her mind and like her powers start to wake up, which would come into play later in the battle um, of Endor. I would not
When
change this. Go ahead.
I had thought of, it's funny you said her awakening her powers because I just had this thought while you were talking. Um, Here's my major revision, and this is going to be a very much a theory video. So when the Death Star blows up Alderaan, her reaction in the movies is not nearly enough to or your home planet being just destroyed, which I can get like a shock maybe, but she never once after that really cares. She's just like whatever. But my revision here, at that moment, she snaps. Dark side powers away. She snaps some necks, force chokes some people on that bridge, and then she becomes Darth Vader's apprentice. And then we do my time jump of 2 to 3 years that I was talking about. So for a couple years, she trains under Vader. He makes her kind of a pseudo apprentice kind of thing. And then Luke, he must first, when he confronts her, turn her back to the light side, make her see the good again. And then together, they stand against Palpatine, and he starts shocking him like he would naturally, does a whole new drop them on their knees, roast them, and then Vader has this moment of, I need to save humanity here and make things right, and then he does something cooler than throw him off the edge, stabs him, lightsabers him in a really dramatic way maybe. Force grabs a saber from across the room and just impales him. Maybe use Luke's lightsaber so it's green or something like that. And it's a nice callback to he's returning to the light, stabs him. Maybe he gets roasted. Maybe Palpatine turns the lightning on him momentarily and fries him, and then he dies in anyway. But that'd be kind of a cool little way to get Leia in the action, and then kind of your evil Rey thing kind of comes back a little bit, and then you can. I kind of like seeing Leia's a dark side thing. And then, because I could see Alderaan just snapping you like that. Like you just get hatred, and then Vader just plays into it. And you need to torture her and makes her use that hatred and kind of does a Star Killer thing where we're going to make you dark side whether you like it or not.
I do like turning Jedi in the game. I like it.
Too. And then that would make Luke kind of have a cool moment of having to save his sister instead of, and then maybe that whole like them together, seeing them together might unlock something in him, a paternal thing, because that's the only thing I could really argue, especially with Vader, that maybe could turn him back would be his kids, because I guess you have some weird connection with your kids that you can't quite understand, that nobody without kids will understand. But you do have this, even for him being so evil, his children might be the only thing that could get him back to seeing some semblance of light. And then I can see maybe that moment of like a clicking in him, like Padme maybe reaching out to the Force. And
that's actually such a perfect segue back to the thing, because my next scene is Luke surrendering to Vader, and I mean, I would have Luke win Vader over in that conversation. Like I would have him, this is his chance. That they're just talking, they're they know who each other are, and like I would have whatever Luke said win Vader over, and ultimately Vader, when he says you don't know the power of the dark side, that isn't him saying like you should join me because I'm more powerful. That's him saying like I can't beat this addiction to the dark side, and that's him still thinking that like he can still figure things out and have things his way, and that's him realizing that like he can't beat the emperor, because at this point, the emperor has proven his superiority over and over and over again. He's beaten Vader a couple times, and so like that statement would be not so menacing, but like sad in a way. But I would have Luke win Vader over in that conversation, and him just like not being able to do it.
I would have preferred that last fight to be between Vader and Palpatine. Have them have a full
Well,
out
don't
duel.
get ahead. Don't get ahead of yourself. I
Okay.
have the ending still. All right. The Rebel fleet coming into orbit. Did it ever bother you after watching the show Rebels that the rebellion didn't have like captured star destroyers? Has that ever bothered you? It's like, why would they not steal ships? Why would they not steal military assets? Because we see in Rebels, like Ezra and Sabine steal TIE fighters like every week. Did it ever bother you that we never saw like repainted, stolen Imperial craft? I
Yeah, that
feel
is
like
kind
we
of
should
weird.
have. So I would.
Considering they've
That's
done it in the Old Republic games.
yeah, like Black Squadron or something could be a bunch of orange painted TIE fighters, where they could have a Star Destroyer. You know how that Clone Wars they painted all their Star Destroyers,
Yeah.
or like Thrawn, who's got the logo painted on the underbelly of the Chimera. Like put the orange Rebel logo on top of it, so they are clearly good guy ships. I just it always bothered me that we never saw a stolen Imperial ship, so I would add that. Oh, okay. So Luke meeting the Emperor, I would make this dramatic as hell, and I would show that the Emperor's power was so overwhelming that it made Luke sick too, the same way it did with everybody else. Like Luke never felt a crushing weight of dark was in the Emperor's room. Um, I would have the Emperor's eyes glowing just bright Sith glow, the way it did in Episode 9, just like Valkorian scary Sith glow. Um, the trap on Endor when Han and Leia are caught at the bunker. The the Emperor always said that he sent a legion of his best troops down to Endor, and we only see like normal, like normie white stormtroopers, and they're getting beat up by the Ewoks like sticks,
Was
rocks.
was the Battlefront 2 campaign, did that touch on that fight? Was
Yeah, it
that where
did.
she was that she crash lands there,
Yep.
right? Something or lands there?
Yeah. So Inferno Squad is on Endor. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what I would show. I would show all the elite units of the Empire. I would show Praetorian Guards. I would show, Death Troopers and Shore Troopers and the Republic Commando guys that transferred to the Empire, and like I would show the all of the assassin like the K2SO droids, and like I would show the full might of the Empire because in contrast to that, the Battle of Endor on the ground would be all these awesome units we see in video games because they got to make good bad guys, shock troopers, and but like whatever's left of the Inquisitorius, because we know like one survives at least until Ahsoka killed him 6 years after the Empire fell. But like all the dark side Inquisitors, lightsaber wielders would be there in garrison, and you would have their purge trooper people, which would be awesome because on the other side of the fight with the rebels, you have the savage Ewoks, you have the Wookiee tribe who's got a bone to pick with the Empire, you've got the Order 66 survivors, and you've got the clones. You've got the special elite units that the rebels have. So I would just like, this is it. This is the final battle. All of the resources are committed, and I would, in space with the fleet and on the ground with the armies, and I would show like an old Republic styled cinematic where you see the Jedi fighting with the Republic troops. It's like, or the attack on Coruscant when all the Sith came running out of their ship, and you hear all the lightsabers activate, and there's big battle. I would make it like a medieval battle in space. I mean, that's basically what Star Wars is anyway. Um, but yeah, we change that for Andor. And during that fight, because her powers are waking up, remember, I would have Leia force pushing some people, force crushing some people, just like getting a handle on it as she progresses, as she goes, and she's really coming into her. Okay, are you ready for the Luke Vader Emperor stuff?
Yes, I'm currently writing something right now, so go ahead. I have my brain is ready for this. You need to hurry because I got so much going on in my head right now.
All right.
You can go.
So Luke versus the dark side. The beginning would start similar. I changed the aesthetic just a bit. The Emperor's Sith eyes would be glowing, like I said. His throne room wouldn't be like an industrial nightmare with a chair and a window and like a pit of doom, like the Spartacus pit. I would make it like super elaborate, like a throne room. Like this is where he intended to rule his empire, just like Valkorion with the Eternal Fleet. And like there'd be this big sky, like glass window stretching so you can like look up into space, just like the big window concept he had. But I would change that aesthetic so I'd make that really feel like a throne room. And in the throne room, I think it'd be awesome, Zach. You know how the Inquisitors had their Jedi like preserved in stasis or amber or whatnot? I would
Hmm.
have I'd have those same stasis pods set up, but it would be the remains of like the High Council of the Jedi High Council. So like you'd see Mace all lightninged and broken and splatted and with his hand missing, and you would see like just like Plo Koon's cracked mask and a skeleton maybe, and you would see like Shakti dead with the hole in her chest. So I would just like all like his ultimate trophies were the Jedi High Council that he defeated, and there would be Sith relics around the room because we know the Emperor was a collector. He had a vault. It always was weird. Again, thanks for the great writing, JJ, that the Emperor had a vault and like his industrial throne room. So like I would make it more of a throne room, more of a place where like he would rule the Empire and force choke people on the carpet. Um uh so I would have Luke attack the Emperor again, just as he did. And Vader would defend his master, just as he did. Uh, but when like the Emperor reacts, he's not just like sitting there laughing like a goofball. Like like you could see like he's high almost, like he's addicted to what's about to happen, the chaos of it all, the complete control, the that he has over Vader, the uh the challenge that is Luke, and like maybe see his fingers like twitch and sparkle and all that, like he's getting off on the situation because like yes, step one accomplished. you know and so in the beginning of the Luke and Vader fight, it would very much be more reminiscent of a sparring match because like neither one of them want to kill each other. Luke wants to turn his father, and Vader wants to turn his son, or at least not hurt him because Luke won him over earlier. And so it'd be just like a sparring match, kind of like a someone's trying to disarm them, not so quick, but like gauging each other. Um, but Luke would do something that would maybe upset Vader or frustrate Vader. And when he lowers his blade, Vader would be like, "This freaking kid, this idiot, this idiot kid of mine," sort of thing, which would fuel him, and he just go full dark side. And when Luke does his little backflip up onto the walkway, and Vader throws his lightsaber at him, no lightsaber throw. I Vader would do to the walkway what he did to the starship in Kenobi, and just pull that sucker down and rip it apart. And Luke would have to do some like acrobatics, some Yoda bounce stuff
So not
to
Fallen Order level.
just
Throwing
like
the building
not
at you.
yeah. No, just like yeah,
Make it a
no, like
platform game.
yeah, make it a platform game. Exactly. No, exactly though. So like because I again, like I said earlier, I never want to underplay Vader. Like he's Vader. He should be super powerful. Like if you get pissed off enough, like, it's like when my kids and I wrestle and they actually get a good move on me. My end game is just to sit on them because I know they can't lift me. You know, just just like that. Um, okay. So skipping apart, let's jump to when Luke is hiding from Vader and Vader's just probing his mind, trying to get him out. When when Vader mentions Leia and Luke goes out in a rage, I would show because we've seen in Star Wars a couple of times like a physical light stick of the Force. I would show like how like the white smoke, black smoke, yin and yang circling, cosmic force losing its damn mind as Luke falls out of balance and Vader falls out of balance. And because it'd be awesome if the dyad and the force for that was Luke and Vader. And I would just like show like a physical manifestation or an optical manifestation of light and shadow as they fought. And I would show Luke tapping into the dark side, and you would hear the force effects, like every pound of his saber, he was using the force, just like the ability bar and Star Wars: The Old Republic. And uh, when he beats Vader, and he disarms him, literally, I would in that moment show Luke's eyes do the Sith thing. Maybe not glow as bright as the Emperor's, but definitely turn, showing that like Luke fully turned in order to beat Vader. But immediately after, just like in Ahsoka, where Anakin's eyes are Sith red, and then they go back to normal Anakin in the world between worlds, I'd show that Luke letting go of his anger, Luke letting go of his hate, and standing up to the Emperor that way. And instead of just frying him, Emperor would lose his damn mind, and he would. zap him and lift him up in the air and force choke him while zapping him, all while monologuing, of course. And he'd be telling him, you have no concept of my power and dark side. I killed the Jedi, all this stuff. And while that happens and Vader comes to, I would Vader would wake up and Vader would force push the Emperor into, I don't, let's say Mace Windu's window, just for poetic irony. And Vader would use the Force to lift all of these uh, Sith artifacts, weapons, and such, and he'd be doing that Vader thing where he's just throwing everything at, using the Force, and we would get to see two true masters of the dark side going at each other. And then once Luke recovered, he would join, and then it would be a battle with Luke and a one-handed Vader against the Emperor. And I would just make that like just a brawl, just a gnarly, nasty Clone Wars animation brawl, and throwing things at each other, you force lightning, zapping it in, and the thing that I'd want to show about this too is that like Vader would clearly be like your strong character, and Luke was just like, the he's the companion that the story gives you at that point. He's helping a little bit, but like truly the battles between the Vader and the Emperor. And I don't know how I would manage it, but I would still have I would have like the Emperor and Vader get real close to each other, like they're grappling. Maybe the Emperor's frying him with electricity, and Vader's still like charging through, using the Force to sustain him. Because one element of that fight that I really, really want to showcase, robot robot hands. I would want like maybe Vader, Emperor's okay. Here it is. Emperor shocking Vader. Vader's trudging forward, and then as Vader gets closer with his lightsaber, which he's already dropped somewhere in this fight, the Emperor pulls out one of his lightsabers. At which point, Vader grabs his wrist with his mechanical hand and just crushes it, absolutely breaks. And then he just uses this like overwhelming physical presence to break the old man, and then kills him in some terrible way, because falling down a shaft in your own throne room is a stupid way to die. It is. It's
It
a
is.
dumb
I
way to
agree with that.
die. Uh,
I love it.
I would,
I need to make this movie.
right,
Go fund me.
right. Luke carrying his dad to the shuttle is going to play out the same. Uh, but so music. I wanted to talk about music. When Luke's fighting Vader, it's got to play the Anakin Padme love song, the Across the Stars. So it's just like Vader's
Ooh,
overwhelmed in every sense. I know, right?
be
Dramatic
nice.
effect. Yeah. Um, uh, when Luke takes off Anakin's mask because he was just fried with lightning, I would show fresh battle damage, not some pale, old, wrinkly, fat dude under the suit. I would show like boy is freshly Mustafar charred from that Force lightning, and that make it clear that that's what killed him, not just taking off his mask. Um, but like I'd show Anakin unrecognizably charred. Um, the funeral, I would um, more attendance for the funeral. Luke,
You're all
Ahsoka
about
would
more
probably show up.
attendance.
I am.
Give me
It's
the
just
people.
give me the people. The people who are there. I want the characters in my story. But put Rex, put Leia, put Ahsoka, put R2 at Anakin's funeral. A couple other Jedi, any Jedi that survived the fight, and then the victory celebration. Anakin showing up as a Force ghost. I wouldn't change him showing up as Hayden, but I would change that he looks like Clone Wars 22-year-old Hayden. I would change like show Vader as he would have been, or show Anakin his age as he would have been uncorrupted by the dark side, fully healed. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
show 40-year-old Anakin with a fade and and a comb over,
Yeah.
But that's it, man. Those are my big changes. Give Leia more and more battle, more force, more people. That's how I change it.
I like it. All right, here's mine. I wrote this whole thing
Yes,
while you're
go.
talking.
Yes.
So excited.
All right, go.
All right. So we're going to have Luke and Vader in the hallway. It's going to be similar, but it's going to be way more impactful. And that's going to be the moment where Anakin changes back to Anakin, is in that hallway scene. But there's something still blocking him from stopping what's going on. But at that moment, seeing his son like that, and I don't know, some kind of weird, whatever happens, he's going to change back there, and it's going to be the start of it. They're going to go to the throne room, and then everything's going to play out the same. But Vader, this whole time, we're going to have like a whole, this is modern tech now. We're going to have a Vader, this entire conversation, he's not really paying attention. He's just lost in his own head. And Luke's going to try to attack the Emperor. He's going to block it. And as he's doing this, it's almost just muscle memory. And he's just kind of, but he's going to see Obi-Wan, Yoda, Qui-Gon, Padme. All this stuff's going to be going on in his head. He's going to have these visions, kind of emotional experience while he's fighting Luke. So he's not really fighting Luke. He's just kind of doing the motions. And as this happens, Luke's going to cut his arm off. It's going to go the same way. Luke's going to get fried, and then Vader's going to try to stop it. But what's going to happen this time around is Palps is going to shock Vader, completely shut his systems down, as was intended with that suit. And then he's going to start monologuing about how crappy of a apprentice he is, how he ruined his potential, all this stuff. But while this is all happening, Anakin removes his helmet, and as the systems are
Chucks
basically,
it at him.
yeah, well, no, he's going to set it down. He's just going to sit there and take the berating. And as the suit is just dead and he has no life support and he's dying, he's going to channel all of it, just like he did in that comic. He's going to move the suit with the Force. He's going to make it work, and he's going to become, in this moment, it's going to be like a whole conversion of the Force where it's going to be light and dark side, perfectly balanced. He's going to fulfill the prophecy, and he's going to, for this moment in time, he reaches his full potential as he wills all of his remaining life force. He's going to pull a Luke Skywalker in the new movies. He's just going to put it all into this last thing here, and he's going to grab Luke's lightsaber, and he's just going to, but Palpatine's going to block it with his own, and they're going to have this epic ass duel. And Vader's going to be no helmet on. He's going to have just no breathing machine. He's just fighting this thing and just using every last bit of life he's got. And then he's going to kill Palpatine somehow. I don't know what move it would be, but it'd be something cool. He's going to stab him, and then he's going to watch him die slowly, and then watch the life drain out of him. Then he's going to collapse. They're going to have the whole end scene there, him talking. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be a deeply battled, wounded Anakin, and it'll be its quick demise. But you'll see, like, for that moment in time, he's going to summon everything he has, and it's going to be the most powerful version of Anakin you've ever seen. And he'll just lay it all on the line, and then it's going to be this awesome epic. But I'd love to see him use that green lightsaber in that final duel. Oh, that'd be so sick. And then you see him without a helmet on too, with the suit. Oh, that'd be so sick.
I also thought it'd be cool if, like, so running with my my throne room theory with all the artifacts and stuff, but like, what if he was pulling? What if they were like? What if they had other Jedi lightsabers as trophies in the throne room, and they were just like using? What if they were having a fight with like dead Jedi lightsabers?
That'd be
It'd be
cool.
so cool.
Well, honestly,
Yeah.
this would have fixed, not the Kenobi show. I mean, it had a lot of issues beside this. Would have fixed the whole show. But if they would have just at the end there, that whole Obi-Wan Vader fight, when he slices the mask off and they have that whole dialogue that was great, if at that moment they had made him do something similar where he just like summoned this dark side rage and just went at Kenobi with more power than Kenobi could even handle, that would have saved a lot of that whole problem with why didn't Kenobi kill him, because he couldn't. He became this monster of, it didn't matter if his suit was damaged. He had just so much anger. Because we've seen it in comics. It doesn't matter if his suit's damaged or not. He's still perfectly capable of doing inhuman feats if he wants to. It's just, and that would have been so cool if he would like went at Kenobi at that moment and just started fighting him berserk, and then Kenobi had to hightail it out of there, and then be like, okay, I can't take him. He's too much for me. And maybe like you could have explained like that whole fight. Vader was conflicted still because it was Kenobi, and he still had that sense of goodness in him, but then at that moment when the mask comes off, it's like you see the hatred just boil over, and he's thinking about everything that happened to him again, and then you can just say like that was the moment he went full berserker, and then you could just, it would have been so cool to see, because that's what I thought was going to happen, because he starts getting up and he's like coming at him again, and he's just like, and I'm going to kill you, and then he's just like, but then he just walks away, and I'm like, oh, I thought there was going to be some epic conclusion to that fight where he just starts going at him, because it looked like they were getting ready to battle again. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. He's going to come at him and he's not going to be able to handle him. And then he's going to have to hightail it out of there, like Qui-Gon style, jump on a moving ship and go whoop. But nope. Whoop. But yeah, this is cool. I like theories like this.
Good. Yeah. We got to write our Nightfall series.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would love to play that.
There's so much we could do. I wish we had money.
Rights to things.
I wish we had like, I don't know, $1 trillion. Probably what we'd
That
need.
might do it.
Yeah.
That would do it. Because we'd have to buy it from Disney.
Yeah, there's
And
like
then-
6 billion, 7.
Yeah. They get a cut.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the overwhelming amount of finance.
Yeah, we're gonna need a lot of lottery luck here.
Honestly, what I would do, I would cast as much as I love them for the sake of Star Wars. And Empire Strikes Back is the most perfect movie ever. I'm on record. I would throw the Legends label on episodes 4 through 9, and then rebuild from the prequels using the actors that they already cast.
That'd be cool.
Make it make sense.
You can do that, and then I'm gonna work on a whole Old Republic series.
Okay. And we can make it. There could be like our crossover episode can be like World Between Worlds.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah, we're having a crossover event already.
Yeah. Well, we got to have at least one collaborator. Come on now.
All right, it's a plan. Let's just get the funding.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Got anything else for the good people?
I think that's it. We're already running pretty long.
A lot longer than I thought. Thank you,
yeah.
everybody that sticked around. You're a wonderful, wonderful audience.
Other than that, what we're doing,
What you're being
I'm
told.
still streaming World of Warcraft and Star Wars most nights. I'm still playing Assassin's Creed. It's taking me forever to get through that, but it's great. I'm gonna play Dune Awakening when that comes out. And yes, I'm still working through Batman, but it's got put on the back burner when I moved rooms because I didn't have a space to do it. But I'm gonna be getting back to it. I don't know if I'm gonna record it or not, but I will definitely play it for sure. But yeah, that's about all I'm doing. What are you doing besides Star Wars?
Cool.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm not. I'm excited. It's cool. I'm excited.
You're telling yourself that in a couple weeks. When that homework piles up.
Even if it wasn't true, which it is, I surely believe if I say enough times, it's going to be true.
That's true. You can manifest it.
There you go.
Apparently that's the thing.
No.
All those yoga nuts do.
So my biology professor wrote the class an email, and he's excited to teach us about science.
You tell him you don't know any science.
Just the science of life.
You tell him global warming's a hoax. See how that goes over.
I told him the Galactic Republic no longer has an opinion.
And with that, thank you all for watching. We will probably be back next week, barring some type of misfortune. Yeah. Appreciate all of you. Till next time. I love you. Bye-bye.